Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and what I want to talk about today is middleware. So I kind of mentioned middleware. We have actually haven't. The only middleware we've used are routes, and routes are special because generally that's the end. Okay, once you hit the route sends a response, and then the whole thing's done. Okay, but you could create what's called, but there are other functions that happen before or can happen before. So right now our server is pretty simple. It goes to this first route, checks to see if that matches, and if that doesn't match, then it goes to this route, and if that doesn't match, then it just sends you a cannot get. It cannot do the request. Okay, and that's just essentially what it does. It just, all the server is really doing is just going through top to bottom through all the code that we made to see if anything that we typed in there satisfies the response. Now middleware are going to be functions that happen before the routes happen. Okay, so I'm just going to type a very simple piece of middleware. So what I'm going to do, we're just going to call this custom middleware, just so you can see how middleware is made. And all middleware is a function. So we're going to say const my middleware, or we'll just call it my mid. It's a function that takes in two things: the request, the response, just like a route, but it also takes in a next function. Because the idea is that it's not intended that this is the end. The idea is that we're going to do some stuff here, but that request is going to keep going till it finds its inevitable home. So I'm just going to do something really simple and stupid. Okay. I'm going to add a property to request. So we're going to say rec dot cheese equals Gouda. Okay, I'm just going to add this property, and then after adding that property, I'm going to console.log I'm the middleware. Okay, and then I'm just going to go next. Okay, and that means move on to the next piece of middleware. Okay, we're done with this one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is in here, just so we can see that, I'm going to go back to this route here, and we're going to add cheese, and we're going to console log rec.cheese. Because what I want to demonstrate is that this middleware occurs before the routes. So I added this to the request object before those routes happened. So now that request, that alteration that I made to the request object, is now available to the rest of any future middleware, any future requests going forward. Okay, so to use the middleware, I have to use what's called app.use. This means use middleware. So I just pass in the my mid function. Okay, so it'll just use that as the middleware. Okay, so now let's see here. My server's still running. I think it is. Oh, nope, it's complaining. Cheese, rec.cheese. Oh, because I forgot a comma. Okay, listening on port 3000. Whoop. Okay, so now if I do this again, we see rec.cheese, there it is, Gouda. Okay, so it shows that the middleware ran, and on top of it, if I go here, I can see, look, the middleware got console logged. Okay, so what does this tell us? That middleware ran. Because essentially what happened is that the request comes in and again goes top to bottom. So the first thing that it sees is this middleware piece, that particular. So the request and response go here first. I add rec.cheese, I do this console log, and that's it. And then I say go on to the next thing. So the next thing would be this. This doesn't match, so it goes on to the next thing. And this matched, so it went there. Okay, so that's sort of the pattern of how Express is working. And the thing is that middleware doesn't just have to be before my routes. I can actually make middleware that only works in specific routes. So I'm going to make another piece of middleware, Control C. Okay, and in this one, we'll call it my mid 2. Okay, and in this one, we're going to actually change rec.cheese to Munster. Okay, but I'm not going to run it here. So actually I want to make this, I'm going to change this, the response of the root, I'm going to change this to rec.cheese. Or actually just change it to, Yeah, just send back rec.cheese. Res.send rec.cheese. That's fine with me. And then I'm going to apply this mymid2 middleware here. So instead of it just going, here's the route, here's the endpoint, and then here's my handler function, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the middleware function in between so I can actually do this. Because technically, this function here is literally just middleware. I just didn't use next because it's the end. So I can actually stick a piece of middleware right here, my mid2, and when this route gets hit, it passed the request response first to here and then to here. Okay? So this middleware only runs if this route gets hit, while this middleware gets run no matter which route gets hit because it's in the global space. So you can have route-specific middleware, you can have middleware that's global. Okay, everything is middleware in Express. Okay, so now if I hit this again, see now cheese is Munster because it hit that my middleware 2, which changed rec.cheese to Munster. But if I go to the root route, see I get Gouda because rec.cheese doesn't get changed the second time because that my mid2 middleware only gets run when that's the URL. Okay, so that's the deal there. So that's just hopefully giving you a bigger picture of sort of how this whole middleware thing works. Now there's a lot of middleware that we're going to want to add. Okay, particularly right now the main middleware we want to add is we're going to want to add app.use express.json. What this does is that it's going to look for data coming into our API, into our server that is in the form of JSON and parse it. Okay, so that way we can actually use that JSON data and it actually makes it part of the rec.body. Okay, that we would have to create some post requests to test out, but just believe me, when you're receiving data, you want that there. Okay, another really useful piece of middleware is app.use express.static. Okay, and what we can do here is we name a folder. The standard thing to do is to name it public, and this folder gets served statically. So watch what happens. So if I were to do, so let me just close node modules because that's open. If I create this new, nope, not a new file. I want to create a new folder in Intro to Express called public. Let's create a new file called cheese.html. Okay, and then here we're just gonna have an h1 cheese. This public folder is treated like the root. So now I can actually go from the root and type in like cheese.html and see I get that HTML file. This is a great place to like put in like CSS files or JavaScript files, other files you need to refer to, or if you just need to create a few pages for whatever, you can do that there pretty easily. You can actually create your website here and then just consume your API. So we'll actually probably do exactly that later on. Okay. What am I thinking? Okay. Now, let's see here. So that's that. And let me think. Now, I think that covers what I want to do. Let's just add a couple more pieces of middleware. So a couple other useful pieces of middleware you're going to want is npm i Morgan. So we want to install Morgan, and we want to install cores. Okay, these are kind of ones that you're generally always going to want to install. So again, when we have new libraries, we have to bring them in. So const Morgan equals require Morgan const cores, and again the variable name doesn't matter, you can call it whatever you want, but convention is to call it by the library name, cores. Cool. Okay, so app.use, here we'll do Morgan, and Morgan, what you do, it's a logger. Okay, so you'll see like now requests are going to get like little messages when we see the server running. And then app.use cores. This just makes it where usually if you start, like if you were to create like a separate front end application that's not built in within your server, it's going to get an error when it tries to make requests to the server out of security reasons. This makes that not happen. You'll see like you'll get like this cores error. But when you put it like this, where there's nothing in the parentheses, it just means let anyone make a request to your server, which is not the most secure thing in the world. If you go on the npm website, so you go to see the actually read the documentation for any of these libraries, you can go to npmjs.com. So I would go look up cores, and then if I read the cores documentation, I can find out like what other settings I can pass into it to make it more secure. But the simplest thing to do in the early stages is just to sit there and do it this way, which just means just let anybody make a request for now. Okay, you do generally want to do that. That helps you kind of prevent like DDoS attacks and all sorts of other things you want to avoid. Cool. With that, so we install those. Now let me run the server again. Node npm run dev, and let's make a request to the server right here. So I did one to cheese. Let me just do one to this. Okay, and then slash cheese. Let's do one to there. Okay. And we see like every time we made a request, it got logged. Okay, so that's what Morgan's doing. It's making a log of all these requests, and we can see the response we got. Generally, if it's like a 300, or 300 means like a 304 means it was cached. So that means, oh, you've been here before, nothing's changed. So instead of re-downloading the thing, we kind of gave you the cached version. 200 means, okay, this place exists, it's not cached, here, we sent it to you and everything arrived just fine. Now what happens if I go to a place that doesn't exist? So let's say I go to localhost 3000/meet. Cannot get meet. So see, we get a 404 error, meaning not found. Okay, just didn't find that route. Okay, so this is really useful, especially when you're developing, to kind of see these logs. It can help you see what you're doing to make sure that, like, because sometimes you get an error and you think, oh, my site's broken, but really you just sent it to the wrong URL. Or maybe it's the wrong verb. If you accidentally were making get requests when you meant to make post requests. But you can get an idea of what's going on by taking a look at the logs. So the logs are really useful. They're just there for diagnostic purposes. And yeah, that's pretty much the moral of the story. So my name is Alex Merced. I'll see you guys later for some more lessons on Express. But hopefully this is trying to show you sort of the Express ecosystem. Talk to you guys later. Have a great day.